Recent ballistic missile strikes, launched by Iran against Israel, have escalated tensions between the two nations and have placed the Middle East on the brink of further conflict. As the situation develops, understanding the deeper motivations, the current state of the conflict, and its potential consequences is crucial. In this video, we will break down what led to this surge in violence, what is happening on the ground right now, and what could be expected in the coming days. To understand the significance of the current hostilities between Israel and Iran, we must delve into the complex history of their enmity. The roots of this animosity date back decades and are intertwined with regional power struggles, ideological conflicts, and global geopolitics. Since the Islamic Revolution in 1979, Iran has been vehemently opposed to Israel's existence. Iran's leadership, especially the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, IRGC, sees Israel as an illegitimate state and a foreign aggressor in the Middle East. Over the years, Iran has supported and armed various militant groups that oppose Israel, including Hezbollah in Lebanon and Hamas in Gaza. This proxy strategy has long been a hallmark of Iran's approach to weakening Israel without direct confrontation. Israel, in turn, views Iran as its most serious and existential threat. Iran's nuclear ambitions, missile programs, and support for anti-Israeli militias have led to years of covert operations, cyber attacks, and diplomatic maneuvers by Israel aimed at undermining Iran's influence. In recent years, Israel has intensified its efforts to curb Iranian influence in neighboring Syria and Lebanon, carrying out targeted strikes against Iranian military installations and personnel in the region. The tensions between Israel and Iran have been simmering for a long time, but the latest escalation can be traced back to specific events that occurred in the last few months. The current round of hostilities began after a series of high-profile assassinations and military strikes. In 2024, Israel reportedly carried out successful operations targeting high-ranking figures within Hezbollah, Hamas, and even Iran's IRGC. These included the assassinations of Hamas leader Ismail Haniyeh, Hezbollah leader Hassan Nasrallah, and Iranian commander Abbas Nilforoshan. Israel's airstrikes in Syria and Lebanon have also targeted Iranian-backed forces, further aggravating Iran. Iran's leadership was enraged by these targeted killings, which struck at the heart of their network of allies in the region. They viewed these strikes not only as acts of aggression, but as direct challenges to Iran's regional influence and power projection. In retaliation, Iran vowed to take strong military action, which eventually culminated in the missile strikes that are now the focus of international attention. On October 2, 2024, Iran launched a series of ballistic missile strikes on Israeli targets. According to reports, these missile attacks were in response to the killing of key Iranian and allied leaders, including Hezbollah's Hassan Nasrallah. The Iranian government and the IRGC claimed that their missile barrage was a demonstration of their ability to strike deep into Israeli territory. Iran's missiles targeted military installations and other high-value targets within Israel. One of the most notable strikes hit the Nevatim air base, where Israel's F-35 fighter jets are stationed. Israel has yet to confirm the full extent of the damage at the base, but reports suggest that the strike was highly accurate. Other missiles landed near sensitive locations, including areas close to Israel's nuclear facilities and the Dead Sea. Iran has touted the missile strikes as a major success, claiming that 90% of their missiles hit their intended targets. This has been met with skepticism by Israel, which insists that many of the missiles were intercepted by their Iron Dome missile defense system. However, videos circulating online show several missile strikes that were not intercepted, leading to significant damage in some areas. In the immediate aftermath of the missile strikes, Israel's government implemented strict media censorship regarding the attacks. The goal of this censorship, according to Israeli officials, is to prevent Iran from gaining valuable intelligence about the success of their strikes. Israel has barred the publication of specific details about where the missiles landed, what military installations were hit, and the extent of the damage. Despite this censorship, images and videos from within Israel have surfaced, showing craters and destroyed buildings in certain areas. One of the most heavily affected locations appears to be the southern town of Gadera, where a missile struck near a school, leaving behind significant structural damage and a massive crater. The Israeli military has downplayed the severity of the strikes, but the nation's leadership is clearly concerned about the potential for further escalation. As part of their immediate response, Israel has mobilized its military forces and has increased the readiness of its missile defense systems. The conflict between Israel and Iran has not occurred in a vacuum. It has drawn in various international actors, each with their own interests and concerns. The United States and the United Kingdom have long been key allies of Israel, providing military and diplomatic support. In this latest crisis, both countries have reiterated their commitment to Israel's security. And there are reports that US and UK military forces were involved in intercepting some of the Iranian missiles. On the other hand, Iran has received vocal support from some of its regional allies, including Syria and elements within Iraq. Iran's missile strikes have been praised by groups like Hezbollah, who view this as a justified response to Israel's actions. There are fears that if the conflict escalates further, it could draw in more regional players, leading to a broader confrontation in the Middle East. Russia and China, two global powers with significant interests in the region, have called for restraint. Both nations have complex relationships with Iran and Israel, and neither wants to see the region destabilized further. However, they are unlikely to intervene directly unless the conflict spirals out of control. The escalation between Israel and Iran has the potential to destabilize the already fragile Middle East region. Neighboring countries such as Lebanon, Syria, and Iraq are particularly vulnerable to the fallout from this conflict. Hezbollah, based in Lebanon, has already vowed to take further action in support of Iran. And there are concerns that Lebanese territory could be used to launch more attacks against Israel. In Syria, where Iranian-backed militias are entrenched, the conflict could reignite tensions between Israel and Syrian forces. Israel has carried out numerous airstrikes in Syria in recent years, targeting Iranian assets, and this pattern is likely to continue if the conflict persists. In Iraq, where Iranian influence is strong, the government is walking a fine line. While it is wary of directly getting involved, some Iraqi militias are sympathetic to Iran and could take independent action against Israel. This could open up yet another front in the conflict, complicating efforts to contain the violence. One of the key concerns arising from this latest round of violence is the potential for escalation. Neither Israel nor Iran is likely to back down quickly. For Iran, the missile strikes are a matter of national pride, and any further Israeli actions will likely provoke additional retaliation. Similarly, Israel's leadership has made it clear that they will not tolerate missile attacks on their territory, and further strikes against Iranian or Hezbollah targets could be forthcoming. The risk of a full-scale war cannot be ruled out. While both sides are engaged in calculated brinkmanship, there is always the possibility of miscalculations that could spiral into a larger conflict. The involvement of regional and global powers also complicates matters, as any direct confrontation between Israel and Iran could have far-reaching consequences beyond the Middle East. In the face of escalating violence, diplomatic efforts are being made behind the scenes to de-escalate the situation. The United Nations, along with key international actors, is urging both sides to exercise restraint and return to diplomatic channels. However, the deep-seated animosities and the strategic interests at play make it difficult for meaningful dialogue to occur. The United States, while offering military support to Israel, has also been advocating for a more measured response. US officials are reportedly working with regional allies to prevent the situation from escalating into a broader war. Similarly, European nations, including France and Germany, have called for immediate ceasefires and negotiations. However, any long-term solution to the Israel-Iran conflict would require addressing the fundamental issues at the heart of their enmity, namely Iran's support for anti-Israel militias and Israel's military actions in the region. Without addressing these core issues, it is unlikely that the current cycle of violence will be broken. While much of the focus has been on the geopolitical and military aspects of the conflict, it is important to remember the human cost. Civilians on both sides have been affected by the violence. In Israel, the missile strikes have caused injuries, destruction of property, and widespread fear. In Iran, sanctions and military tensions have led to economic hardship and social unrest. The longer this conflict continues, the more ordinary people will suffer. Both Israelis and Iranians are caught in the crossfire of a conflict driven by political and military elites. It is crucial that the international community pushes for peace, not only for the sake of regional stability, but also for the millions of people who have already endured too much suffering. The escalating conflict between Israel and Iran is a reminder of the deep-rooted tensions that have long defined their relationship. With missile strikes, military censorship, and regional actors on high alert, the stakes have never been higher. Yet, In the face of further escalation, there remains a glimmer of hope that diplomatic efforts could prevent this conflict from spiraling out of control. The international community must continue to push for dialogue, as the human cost of this conflict grows each day. The future of the region hangs in the balance, and peace, however elusive, remains the only viable solution to this ongoing cycle of violence.